But rest in peace, Lodi Mack. You know the story. Like, I mean,
I know the story.
It was street.
God, man, I want to apologize to those that I let down for letting some suckers play me. I just didn't know that these dudes was that jealous. That jealousy would allow them or make them do the things that they did.
Well, don't give me no pass, man. I don't deserve passes. I'm a f***ed up. Okay, you should do something to me. You understand what I'm saying? Because send mixed messages.
Feuds have been part of hip-hop since the days of the Roxanne Wars back in 1984, and 50 Cent has definitely mastered this art. Since dropping his debut album in 2003, he's become one of hip-hop's most successful acts, evolving from a raw musician to a full-blown media mogul. But along that path, he's had his fair share of beef with other artists. One of the most intense and dangerous of these beefs was with Jimmy Henchman, a notorious gangster. This feud was so serious that it led to the tragic death of one of 50's closest friends, Lowell Fletcher, aka Lodi Mack. And it didn't stop there. 50 Cent himself had several close calls with death because of this ongoing conflict. So what went down between 50 Cent and Jimmy Henchman? Let's dive into the details. Jimmy Henchman, whose real name is James Rosemond, was a notorious figure in New York's criminal underworld. He had deep connections with Kenneth Supreme McGriff, who was like a mentor to 50 Cent when he was growing up. Despite these connections, 50 Cent didn't have any major issues with Jimmy Henchman at first. Everything started to shift after 50 Cent's massive breakthrough with his 2003 album Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Dr. Dre, who had signed 50 Cent, brought another rapper into the fold, a West Coast artist named The Game. Dr. Dre asked 50 Cent if Game could join G-Unit, 50's group. They already had New York locked down, Young Buck repping the South, and adding The Game would give them a solid West Coast presence, so the deal was sealed. And The Game officially became part of G-Unit, but there was a twist. The Game's manager at the time was none other than Jimmy Henchman. From the start, Jimmy Henchman harbored jealousy and resentment toward 50 Cent, especially after 50 blew up. In the lead up to The Game's debut album, The Documentary, Jimmy Henchman was allegedly in The Game's ear, telling him that beefing with 50 Cent could catapult him to greater fame. Henchman even admitted in an interview that the plan was for The Game to surpass 50 Cent in popularity. Another layer to the animosity was 50 Cent's close friendship with music executive Chris Lighty, who Jimmy Henchman was also envious of. According to Tony Yayo, a member of G-Unit, Jimmy Henchman's jealousy towards Chris Lighty fueled his dislike for 50 Cent. This resentment only grew as 50 Cent's star continued to rise. The feud between 50 Cent and The Game officially kicked off in February 2005. The Game, influenced by Henchman, started the anti-G-Unit campaign, famously declaring it at Summer Jam 2005.
Y'all heard me do it, so make some noise, man. Don't hate me, I ain't the bad guy, man. And it's still fuck 50. Now play my.
While 50 Cent mostly stayed silent, the tension simmered beneath the surface. However, on October 1st, 2005, the G-Unit Radio Part 14 Back to Business mixtape dropped, and 50 Cent finally addressed the situation on the track Emotional. In the song, he aired his feelings about The Game's betrayal and called out Jimmy Henchman for manipulating The Game.
See, that's why I don't like them old school man. Now you know Jimmy told him to do that. Well, Jimmy, why you don't tell him how you gonna pay his bills now?
The beef between 50 Cent, G-Unit, and Jimmy Henchman kicked into high gear after this. Jimmy kept whispering in The Game's ear, telling him to go after 50 Cent, and The Game did just that. He dropped multiple mixtapes and diss tracks aimed at 50 throughout 2005 and 2006. It was a relentless campaign to undermine 50's position. Then in 2006, 50 Cent finally decided to fire back with the track I'm Not Rich, I'm Still a Lion. On this song, he not only took shots at The Game, but also aimed his lyrical firepower at Jimmy Henchman.
You trying to be funny, D-Mac cut all my money, then Jimmy robbing me, they listening probably.
The battle escalated when on July 5th, 2006, G-Unit released the mixtape G-Unit Radio 21 Hate It or Love It. This mixtape was practically dedicated to dissing The Game. And as you can see, the cover art has The Game's head photoshopped onto a male stripper's body, spreading rumors that The Game used to be a stripper before he got into rapping.
So I can smack the black off you, nigga. I spit in your face.
This move reignited the beef, leading to a fresh wave of diss tracks from both 50 Cent and The Game. The back and forth was intense, and neither side seemed willing to back down. In 2007, the beef took a dangerous turn. In March of that year, Jimmy Henchman's son was heading into the building where his father's office was located. Tony Yayo and his associate, Lodi Mack, happened to cross paths with the 14-year-old. They confronted him, and Tony Yayo slapped the kid while Lodi Mack flashed a gun, threatening his life. The boy went inside and told his father about the encounter. The whole incident was caught on camera, leading to Tony Yayo's arrest. Although the charges against Yayo were eventually dismissed, Lodi Mack took the fall, claiming he was the one who hit the boy. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison for the assault. Tragically, just a couple of weeks after Lodi Mack was released from prison, he was shot dead in New York. This wasn't a random act of violence. Jimmy Henchman had put a hit out on him. According to Tony Yayo, the man who Lodi Mack was actually his cellmate in prison.
Jimmy Henchman case, all this is documented. But the hitman was actually in jail with my friend. So he befriended him in jail. And then when he got home, that's the same hitman that was his friend in jail, was the actual hitman.
The was meticulously planned by Henchman and his associates. They got information about Lodi Mack's release and movements. When they initially tried to identify him, they missed him, but they persisted. Eventually, they found out who Lodi Mack's lawyer was and called the lawyer, pretending to be a friend of a close associate, Biggie. They told the lawyer that Biggie had asked them to look after Lodi Mack now that he was out of prison. Lodi Mack, grateful for the supposed help and thinking a friend was looking out for him, agreed to meet up with them. Tragically, this led to his demise. This was just the beginning of the chaos Jimmy Henchman unleashed on Tony Yayo and 50 Cent. The first time Jimmy tried to kill 50 Cent was pretty wild. He was driving down Manhattan's West Side Highway and decided to take his hand off the wheel to grab his gun. As he was passing by 50 Cent's building, he was ready to fire, but he had to stop when he noticed some cops tailing him. That failed attempt didn't deter him though. Jimmy got even more creative and sinister. He actually planned to blow up 50 Cent's bulletproof van. Knowing the cars were bulletproof, he figured an explosion might be the only way to get to 50. Jimmy's vendetta didn't stop there. He kept coming after Yayo and 50. There was a drive-by shooting at Tony Yayo's mom's house, done with a silenced pistol. Jimmy's final attempt on Yayo's life was when he saw Tony Yayo's Bentley parked and decided to spray it with bullets. But, as luck would have it, Yayo was sitting inside his bulletproof van parked just behind the Bentley, so he escaped unharmed. After all these close calls, 50 Cent decided it was time to strike back. He knew that some of Jimmy Henchman's goons were based in Atlanta. 50 found one of their addresses and started leaving threatening phone calls. He even had his own goons leave a dead rat on the guy's doorstep. He talked about this on the track Get the Message from the War Angel LP mixtape, where he called out Prem and Jimmy.
Left a message by your door, you got a grown 44. Get the message, come out and get the message.
In June 2010, things took a major turn when Jimmy Henchman was arrested on serious charges. TFK, money laundering, and witness tampering. His trial date was set for May 2012, but it didn't stop there. Shortly after his trial, in June 2012, Henchman was slapped with additional charges related to the death of Lodi Mack. These included for hire and conspiracy to commit. Facing a mountain of charges, Jimmy started looking for plea bargains, trying to snitch on others to reduce his sentence. On May 22, 2012, 50 Cent dropped a mixtape called The Lost Tape. On the song Complicated, he took shots at Jimmy Henchman and his trial, even calling him out for being a rat and snitching to lessen his sentence.
Pill popping that strap, I pop that. Watch the henchman trial, see a rat on a rat.
After that, 50 Cent dropped his album Animal Ambition on June 3, 2014. One track in particular, Hold On, references the incident where Tony Yayo smacked Jimmy Henchman's son. Jimmy wasn't about to let that slide and fired back, denying that he snitched and claiming that 50 Cent was actually going to testify against him. 50, always one to keep the drama going, took to Instagram and posted a picture of Jimmy's paperwork with the caption, "Old Gangsta Jimmy, shake my head LMAO, washed up, hashtag Jimmy Snitchman." The tension remained high. And on November 29, 2017, Jimmy Henchman was convicted. 50 Cent continued his Instagram tirade until Jimmy recorded his reaction to receiving 2 life sentences.
Man, I want to apologize to those that I let down for letting some suckers play me. I just didn't know that these dudes was that jealous. That jealousy would allow them or make them do the things that they did.
And of course, 50 Cent couldn't help but respond to this.
You know, one of the things that I did ask Brian McLeod to do was I asked him to bring Fletcher or Yayo to me. So took it upon himself and he killed Llewellyn Fletcher.
But to understand just how notorious Henchman was, let's dive deeper into his story. James Roseman, better known as Jimmy Henchman, was born in 1965 in Harlem, New York. He grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn, in an apartment complex called Vanderveer Gardens. His parents had migrated from Haiti in the 1960s but divorced when he was young, leaving his mother to raise 5 children alone. Despite these challenges, Roseman made a name for himself in the music industry. In 1992, Roseman and several friends founded the music conference How Can I Be Down, which became a significant event in the hip-hop world. By 1993, he was behind Salt and Peppa's hit single Shoop. His influence grew, and around 1996, Roseman founded Henchman, the company that would eventually evolve into the rap management powerhouse Czar Entertainment. As the CEO of Czar, Roseman managed some of the biggest names in the industry, including The Game, Sean Kingston, Brandy, Gucci Mane, Gorilla Black, Salt and Peppa, and Akon. His reputation was solidified. A 2012 New York Times article described him as a prince at the royal court whose ties to rap music's biggest stars were known far and wide. In 2006, Henchman and 50 Cent settled a lawsuit over a DVD released by Czar Entertainment about 50 Cent's namesake, Kelvin 50 Cent Martin. The DVD allegedly used interviews with Curtis Jackson, the rapper 50 Cent, inappropriately. The settlement led to the creation of a charity with funds supporting Martin and his children. Roseman's influence wasn't limited to the music industry. In 2002, he played a pivotal role in negotiating the Lennox Lewis vs. Mike Tyson boxing match. This was a historic event, marking the first time a boxer demanded and received a deal where the purse would be split 50-50 with Showtime Network's HBO after 1 million pay-per-view buys. In 2003, Roseman, alongside Chris Lighty, joined forces with Russell Simmons to campaign against New York's Rockefeller drug laws, advocating for reform. His commitment to social causes was evident again in 2010 when he co-executive produced BET's SOS Saving Ourselves Help for Haiti telethon. The event, held at Miami's American Airlines Arena on February 5, 2010, aimed to raise money for the victims of the devastating Haiti earthquake, which had over 100,000 people. In June 2010, Roseman found himself in hot water when he was arrested on charges of TFK, money laundering, and witness tampering. His trial kicked off in May 2012 with none other than Gerald Shargel representing him. By June 5, 2012, Roseman was convicted in federal district court in Brooklyn for drug TFK, obstruction of justice, firearms violations, and a slew of other financial crimes tied to his leadership of a multi-million-dollar transnational selling operation. At trial, prosecutors painted a vivid picture of Roseman as the mastermind behind a large-scale bi-coastal narcotics TFK organization. This group, dubbed the Roseman Organization, was responsible for transporting from Los Angeles to the New York metropolitan area. They had a pretty elaborate system in place, shipping the cash proceeds from their narcotics sales back to LA using a variety of methods, including Federal Express and United Parcel Service. To avoid detection by drug-sniffing dogs, they'd even cover the shipments in mustard. According to the indictment, Roseman's drug TFK scheme raked in over $11 million a year since 2007. The hammer came down hard on Roseman on October 25, 2013, when he was sentenced to life imprisonment. As part of his sentence, he had to forfeit approximately $14 million in cash and property. United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, Loretta E. Lynch, had some harsh words, saying that Roseman's image as a music mogul was nothing more than a facade for the real Jimmy Roseman, a thug in a suit. Presiding Judge John Gleeson didn't mince words either, remarking that he would have given Roseman a life sentence even if it weren't legally required due to the astonishing breadth, duration, and intensity of his crimes. But Roseman wasn't ready to give up the fight. On March 10, 2016, he filed a habeas corpus appeal with the same federal court seeking a new trial. He also lodged a complaint with the U.S. Justice Department Office of Professional Responsibility against former U.S. Attorney Todd Kaminsky, citing dubious actions regarding testimony from the government's lead witness Henry Black Butler. However, in 2019, the court denied the writ and dismissed his appeal. In June 2012, Roseman faced even more serious charges related to the death of Lowell Lodi Mack Fletcher. He was charged with for hire and conspiracy to commit. The trial for these charges began on February 10, 2014 in a New York federal court. It was an intense trial, with more than 35 witnesses testifying. Despite the mountain of evidence, the jury deliberations resulted in a hung jury on the 4 counts for both Roseman and his co-defendant Johnson. Roseman was back in court again in December 2014. This time, on December 11th, the jury found him guilty on all charges related to the of Lodi Mack. On March 23, 2015, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 20 years by Judge Colleen McMahon. However, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit overturned the conviction in 2016, but Roseman's legal troubles were far from over. The case went to trial for the 3rd time in 2017, and once again, Roseman was convicted and sentenced to life plus 30 years. Roseman's life and criminal cases have been the subject of various media portrayals. He was profiled by filmmaker Don Sikorsky in the documentary series Unjust Justice: The Jimmy Roseman Tapes, released in 2016, and in the podcast Unjust Justice: The Jimmy Roseman Story, released in 2020 and hosted by Michael K. Williams. These series examined his life, his criminal cases, and how the media portrayed him. Roseman's name has also been dropped in hip-hop tracks, cementing his controversial legacy in the music industry. Tupac Shakur mentioned him by name as Henchman in his song Against All Odds on the album The Don Killuminati: The 7-Day Theory. In the song, Tupac raps, "Promise to pay back Jimmy Henchman in due time," reflecting his belief that Roseman was involved in setting up the 1994 shooting and robbery at Quad Recording Studios in New York. In 2012, a man named Dexter Isaac, serving a life sentence for unrelated crimes, claimed he was the one who attacked Tupac that night and that the robbery was indeed orchestrated by Roseman. American rapper Rick Ross also acknowledged Roseman as a mentor in his song Ghostwriter from the album Black Market, where he raps, "Remember receiving words of wisdom from Jimmy Henchman. I lit a blunt in his honor when he received a sentence." This lyric highlights the impact Roseman had on some figures in the hip-hop community, despite his notorious criminal activities.